Hello and welcome back to my craft room. Long time no see. One way and another I haven't been getting up to very much creative this week. I won't bore you with the reasons why, but I did promise that I would come back this week and just wind up our colour inspiration journal adventure and throw you one final challenge. So this is I'm kind of finishing up this little series of videos, but this isn't the end. I hope it would just be a beginning. For me, this has been all about getting into the habit of collecting up all the ideas and inspirations that I can draw from the environment around me. Keeping this little art journal with a view to taking inspiration from it for all kinds of projects in the future is a habit that I will definitely keep going. So I hope maybe some other people have got different, I think everybody's taken different things from it, everybody's gone their own way with it, but I hope at least some of you have found it interesting or inspiring. I've got enough ideas brewing from what I've got in this journal to keep me going for months to come, for all kinds of future art and textile projects, which was the whole idea for me. Anyway, so let me show you the little bit that I have done. We'll have a bit of a recap, and I've got some examples to show you the kind of things that I want to have a go at going forward, and then I will give you my challenge, my final challenge to you. So here's my sketchbook. Once this journal is all full, we'll probably have to take some pages out to allow it to show up because adding a lot of bulk. Once it's all full, I will give it a more interesting cover than this. This is one little thing that I did do during the week because it was kind of mindless and I could sit in front of the telly and do it on a lap tray. I think I used about 4 old magazines and I just cut all the letters of the alphabet out of it. I aimed to have a mixture of sizes and colours, upper and lower case, and I've got all the letters of the alphabet, and I've started to collect a few punctuation marks as well. However, I think what I'm going to do is cut these out again and space them out more, because one of the things I want to do is to print this out on fabric so that I can cut it and stitch them onto textile pieces for future projects. So I need to have room to cut around and stitch them in. So I'm going to cut those out again, spread them out over 2 sheets, and then I'm going to print them out. I'm going to use this stuff. Now you can get our Jackie Parry, or Fabulous Jacks, in the Discord does a lot of printing on fabric. She does some amazing collage pieces that she prints on fabrics. So she did say she's very happy to give advice if anybody needs it. And she uses a special fabric that she gets that will go through the printer. However, I have got a whole roll of this. So I decided to have to go with this method, and it worked really well. Now, have I got it handy? Hang on a sec. So one of the things I have been doing over the last few days is having a bit of a sort out in my craft room, and I forgot about this project that I started where I was experimenting with image transfers, different ways of getting image transfers on fabric. The one I wanted to show you, this was all, I think it's called anthracite and cyanotype printing. I didn't have a proper negative, so actually looking at it again, that came out pretty well actually. I am going to get back to the project I did with that. Some duds, those were duds in fact, so duds I'm going to put them in a bin now. This one looks amazing, but it has this kind of plasticky finish, so I don't know how well it's going to do for stitching into, which is what I wanted. I was using turmeric, that was pretty amazing. Here it is, here's the one I wanted to show you today. So this was just like, I typed something up in Word and picked a couple of fonts I liked the look of for the project I had in mind. And what I did was ironed some of this freezer paper onto the back of the fabric. You can see it's got one shiny side, and you iron the shiny side onto the fabric, and then you cut it as accurately as you can to A4 or letter size or whatever your printer is, and it will run through the printer because this acts as a carrier. Then when it's gone through the printer, you can just peel the paper off the back, and this is what you're left with, and it's fabulous. And of course you could do it in full colour, whatever. There's absolutely no, it's literally just the ink on there. There is no, the fabric is perfectly soft. And my idea was that I would then stitch over this. It's not that easy to get this. I'm sure for anybody watching in America, you can probably buy this in the supermarket. I had to get it online here in the UK. It wasn't the cheapest, but it wasn't outrageous either, and it'll go a long way. There's all kinds of uses for this, crafty uses for this actually. I used to sell it in the craft shop I worked in, because a lot of quilters use it for applique and stuff. So my idea is that I can print this. Once I've sorted it out a bit, I can print this onto fabric. And I want to make some other fabric collages as well, but I'll come to that in a minute. You've seen all the rest of this, so I won't bother showing you again, but just in case you're watching this and you haven't seen it, because I will refer to it in a minute, this was my mood board, which was based on my granny's teacup, my granny's old teacup. And I took a kind of lovely floral garden theme from it. That was my rendition of the pattern on the cup, and I took my colour palette from the colours on the cup. So this is kind of what I'm working on going forward, pretty much, and some other ideas that I gathered along the way during this little journey that we've had. Here's my other little mini book that I started with. I'm going to put all them to one side for a minute. And here's the book that kind of inspired it all, sent to me by the lovely Jen. Thank you, Jen. Written by the wonderful Julia Caprara. Jen was lucky enough, I can't speak even at the moment. Jen was lucky enough to have worked with Julia at some point years ago. So I've just made some notes just to refresh us on kind of, just to remind ourselves of what we've covered along the way on this little journey of ours. So we started off by collecting all one colour, and I started with green. That's where this little book came in. That was my starting point for the first week, really, the first assignment. We just explored that one colour family. So we talked about adding pop by using a complementary colour to our main colour, and also by using black and white, and we created a complementary colour palette. We talked about how best ways of using that colour palette. Then we chose one shape, and I chose circles, as you can see here. And we just played with that colour using our complementary colour palette. Then we talked about adding texture, and I've used different ways here of adding texture. We talked about all kinds of ways that you could use to add texture, whether you're stitching or using art supplies. And then coming towards the end, we created a mood board, and we talked about how to use colour wheels, and how to draw different elements and ideas and colours for your palette from the mood board. And you saw the colour palette just now that I ended up with. And then the last little assignment was to add wordage in various ways, and we talked about all different kinds of ways, or several different kinds of ways that you might add wordage. Another thing I did during this week, when I was too mindless to do anything else, was just to cut little strips out of old book paper, and then I mounted them onto a bit of old, scrap paper, just with Pritt stick or whatever, and I just cut them out, because that just makes them a bit more stable. So I can always pull one of these little phrases out and use it to add to an art doll, or a collage piece, or even to a piece of stitching, because I could just stitch over it to hold it in. Infinitely affectionate. Journal of our life. Leaves from the journal of our life. Oh, I quite like that. Just so many ways you can add wordage in. Actually meaningful words, or just using the words and letters as a design element. So that was it. That was the last assignment, and today is time for the final challenge. So the whole idea with Julia's book here is it's called Exploring Colour, but she draws a lot of inspiration from nature and from the environment around her. And the idea is that you collect all of these ideas and inspirations, and then you work towards creating a finished piece, or as many finished pieces as you feel inspired to do. So as an example, Julia shows this photo of these photos of a garden in Cornwall, and she describes it, and you can see the pictures there, and she goes into all of that. And here's different ways that she's used to record it, using different marks on the paper and different kinds of supplies. That's one thing I really enjoyed about this project, was just experimenting with supplies I hadn't used for quite a while. And this is just kind of her impression of that garden, and you can see how that gives you so much more than this photo. This is putting this combined with her notes that she made at the time, is giving you a sense of the mood and the feeling that she had when she was stood in the garden at that time. And then what she's going to do now is translate that into stitch. You can see a close up here of some stitch work, and she talks here about what she sort of learned from the process. And I haven't got time really I don't want to sort of sit here and go through the whole thing, but this is what she ended up with. She's done an art cushion. This is one side, this is the other side, and this is the side. It's called Sunshine and Shadow. Having worked with the sketchbooks and concentrated on an area of colour in the garden, I became aware of the quality of light. This was especially apparent in strong sunshine, when the contrast with the shadows changed and deepened the colour scheme. That was another thing I enjoyed through the process. It was not just kind of collecting colours, but looking at how the different colours affected each other, and how just, how you can add drama by adding contrasting tonal values. I could just play with it forever. The result was a double-sided cushion, one side showing shadow and the other sunshine. Just for a little bit for you to see. Look at the stitches that she's used in there, and all the texture and depth. Absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous. And possibly a little bit out of my scope just at the moment. But very, very inspiring. So I'm going to put that away for now, and I'm going to show you some of the ideas that I've had. I have made myself a little list of just a few of the ideas. Honestly, I could go on, and they've all come from, mostly I've pulled elements from my mood board, and I will certainly use those colours, the colour palette that came out of my mood board. But some of it's harking back to the work we did in previous weeks. So for me, I was working with green, then green with the red violet, and my shape that I chose was circles, and I still have so much more that I didn't have time to do at the time that I still want to experiment with. So I've made a list. So before we have a look at my list of ideas and some examples that I've got to show you, here is my challenge to you. Very simple, and there's lots and lots of scope within it. My challenge to you is create something three-dimensional. Doesn't matter what medium you want to use, do whatever brings your heart joy. I'm going to be working in textiles, but I might do some paper crafting as well. I have all sorts of ideas. You must do whatever you love doing, but make it something three-dimensional. Now that doesn't mean it's got to be a sculpture. Three-dimensional could be all sorts of things. Here are some ideas. I've got a list, so it's going to look a bit weird because I'm going to be reading off the screen. More weird than usual. First two or three ideas come from the idea of the teacup that was my original inspiration, which I should have brought up here to show in case anybody's watching that's not seen it before. But it's an old-fashioned Floradora design china teacup. So one of the ideas was to use some of the napkins that I used in my mood board to do a bit of napkin decoupage, and I'm going to come back and actually do a short video on that. And what I'm going to do, because I want to create something that puts me in mind of that china teacup with the lovely gold rim on it. And we happened to have scallops last week. There was a special for Valentine's Day, and we had scallops. So I saved the shells, and John gave them a good scrub for me. And I'm going to napkin decoupage them, and then I'm going to use gold leaf, well it's faux gold leaf, to gild the edges. So I end up with what hopefully looks like a china scallop shell with a gold rim, and I might actually just gesso and then paint the backs and just put the decoupage on the inside. And it'll be a nice little thing to keep jewellery or little beads or whatever in. So that's one idea, so it doesn't have to be great art, this is a crafty idea. This is something I do when I'm not feeling all that creative, but I just want to make something pretty. So another idea would be to make So I love when you use broken china to turn into a mosaic. So somewhere, but I think it's out in the garage, one of the pieces from my granny's dinner service in the same design actually got broken, and I was heartbroken. I thought rather than throw the pieces away, I mixed them with some other china and used them to make a mosaic on a old wooden tray, which looks really pretty, but it's out in the garage right now, so I couldn't bring it to show you. I thought, what about making a quilt inspired by that? So it'll be a quilt made out of small fabric scraps that looks like a mosaic made of broken china. So idea number 3 is to make a textile vessel. Here we go. So there are all sorts of stitched vessels here. Some of them look like they're felted, some are fabric stitched together, some are woven or coiled. Oh, look at that. Wow. Some of these, that one looks like it might have been done. If you soak the fabric in PVA and then mould it around something, we used to mould it around a balloon and then pop it when the fabric's dry and remove the balloon. You end up with that sort of quite an organic shape. Yeah, so I want to experiment with that. I love the colours here as well. And here, these ones, fabric vessels, just stitched vessels here. I reckon that's the same person. Looks similar idea. Sue Trevor. Yeah, obviously I like Sue Trevor's style. There are so many ideas, and here this one is actually a link to our Tori, Cool Cookie Creatures. She did a stitchy vessel, and lots of people have been in the Facebook group. I'll leave a link to the Facebook group and stuff. I'll mention about that in a minute. Lots of people have made vessels inspired by her tutorial here, so I'll link to Tori as well. Yeah, she's got lots of good ideas on her channel, so do go and check her out if you haven't already. I'm sure if you're watching me, you probably already know Tori. So yeah, lots and lots of ideas there for stitched vessels. Another idea would be fabric flowers. There are all kinds of fabric and paper flowers actually that could look really nice to go in my stitched vessel perhaps, or I'll just make them as brooches. All sorts of different takes on this idea. I like these ones, which I believe are silk that's then burnt at the edges to make it crinkle. Wow, look at that. So I will have a good old look through some of these inspiring images and see what I can come up with. Another idea thinking about flowers was to do, I've been meaning to and haven't got around to it, to do a little patch of lawn. Julia did a piece. Here it is. So this is called Meadow Turf, and it's just done with, I think, straight stitches and maybe some Y stitches. Yeah, in all different types of thread, but essentially the same stitch, very simple stitching, all layered one over another, and all different shades of green. I just love that. I love it. And I would like to do my version of that, but more of a, rather than meadow turf, it would be my slightly ropey garden lawn. And to put my spin on it, I'd like to do it on a felted base that looks like earth, possibly with some beads in it to look like pebbles, possibly with somehow I'll make a little worm out of shiny fabric or something. I've just sort of got a rough idea in my head, and then maybe use stump work or more felting to create a daisy, because we always leave daisies in the lawn. So yeah, just got some sort of rough ideas about that, just to do a little tiny piece of my garden. We should just then sit on one of my shelves or something. That's another idea. No end of ideas, just no energy, no time left to actually do them at the moment. Scrappy birds. I have done scrappy, have I got one with me? I did do a scrappy bird tutorial at one point a while back. I'll try and remember to link to that, and you can turn the scrappy birds into brooches or hanging decorations or gift tags or whatever you like, or just pop them on a stitched square. Quite a nice card topper as well actually. You can make them quite fat or quite flat, whatever suits you. So I'm going to make some more scrappy birds, got plenty of scraps. I also want to make a bird house. Now I have to take it back to the desk again now, back and forth, because I've got a lot I want to show you. But these are gorgeous. These will make your mouth water. I mean, one idea to do a birdhouse would be to do just buy a wooden one from somewhere like The Works here in the UK. I'm sure you've got similar things, Joann's or something over in the States. But our Tori showed how to alter one of those wooden ones and cover it with stitching. You could do something like that. But I was given this book 2 Christmases ago, or maybe it was last birthday. My birthday coming up now, so this would have been a year ago. It might have been. Anyway, this was given to me by my good friend Trina. She always buys me lovely crafty gifts, and this is no exception. And this lady shows you how to make beautiful little houses and things out of fabric, and obviously you're stiffened as well. But look, there's even tiny fairy clothes, little fairy houses. Now, obviously I would want to put, it's nice that there are templates and everything, I would want to put my own spin on this, but I do love the idea of creating a little fabric birdhouse using the same techniques that are in here. I won't go all through all of this because this is just going to get too long, but you can see the kind of thing that I mean. Felted flowers. This is one I made ages and ages ago, so I didn't really know what I was doing, but I still kind of quite like the idea. And there are lots of different tutorials on the Makers YouTube channel. I'll link to them as well. I've got all sorts of colours of felt to play with now, so I quite fancy doing some more felt flowers. When I got my Makers Flock subscription, they also included a lot of templates for doing this kind of thing. So there were pansies and all sorts of things. I do love my pansies. So felt flowers, which I can turn into brooches or whatever. That's another idea. Stitched boho bangles. Now, Dottie B Vintage, who is Sally West in the Facebook group, she's been making these amazing stitched boho bangles. Now, I made these boho bangles back last summer. These were no-sew ones, so they're just kind of knotted or wired or glued. I think they would fit in, they would go quite well with the stitched ones that Sally's been doing on her channel, so I will link to Sally's channel as well. I also think these beads, I think I've got some more of them, remind me of the lights on my mood board, and these colours are all in my mood board as well, so these probably not so much. But pin cushions. Now, I've been watching Christine of Create and Craft with Christine. She made it's like an elasticated wristband with a built-in pin cushion on it, and she was saying it looks like a macaron, and that made me think, macaron I could make, because that would fit with my mood board as well. And then I got, one thing leads to another, your mind starts ticking over, and I thought, I could do all kinds of like afternoon tea pin cushions. Maybe some would just be freestanding and some that would go on your wrist. When I was working with circles as my shape, one of the things I ended up doing was using buttons. I was weaving over them, I was stitching into them, and I thought of all kinds of other things I would have liked to have done but didn't have time. So I'd love to try Yorkshire buttons, Dorset buttons. There's a Japanese style of woven button which looks absolutely beautiful. I've got some pictures to show you. Here we go. I loved this. This is a modern twist on a Dorset button. Apparently this is at the Museum of East Dorset. I love that. I love that someone's used recycled fabrics and made this huge. I'm assuming it's huge. There's no sense of scale though, actually, but it must be pretty big. Here's more sort of traditional looking ones. All those different ways of creating a circular button and all those different textures. I love that. But actually all in the same colour and neutral. But yeah, really like that. So that's another idea that I want to play with. Look at these Yorkshire buttons. These beautiful. I think it was Sue did some, Granny Sue, I think did the beautiful one she was shown in the Facebook group the other day and in Discord. Love those. Got to try that. Christine, Create and Craft with Christine. She's been doing all sorts of different ways of making buttons, and the other day she was showing how to make your own cardboard jig, and I think she did a template for it so that you could have a go at making those Yorkshire buttons without needing to buy a kit or anything, which I thought was brilliant. And it did make me think, I've got a set of cogs die cuts, and I reckon I could die cut those out of card, stick a couple of layers together, and that would be magic as well. So watch this space. Right, what's next on my list? Art dolls. There are so many different kinds of art dolls you could do, and this is sort of half art and half stitching really. This one was done with it. I started with calico, which I decoupaged napkin onto with PVA, then I painted over the top of it, so it's a real mixed media piece. Then I cut out the shapes and stitched it together, and added some of these words in a similar way to how I've done those actually. and lots of other doodads and things as well. Here's another way of doing dolls. My trash dolls. I did do a video about trash dolls a while back. Again, I will try to remember to link to that. I love making my trash dolls. They're all made out of recycled boxes and packaging, and these were till roll middles and then bits and pieces from my craft room, and again words on there and stuff. Good way to use up all sorts of stash. Absolutely love making these. Oops, I've got a whole shelf full of them, which you can usually see in the distance just up behind me. Send in the clowns, and I've got one more to show you. I've got loads of them. It was hard to pick which ones to show you really. This one, her heart dangles when she's standing upright, but obviously she's not. And they all freestand. Yeah. So there are so many of these, and I could definitely make them with my, to fit the theme of my mood board. Another idea was to do an interactive book, but all stitched, so it would have pop-ups in it, but it's all stitched. I remember Christine saying at the time when I was doing a tunnel book a while back, I wonder if we could do something like that in stitch. And at the time I thought, oh yeah, some of us did kind of peekaboo elements in our colour inspiration journals, and I got to thinking that would be really fun to do in stitching. I really would like to do that. So that could be part of my interactive book, some kind of peekaboo pages where you've got holes cut in one page so you can peek through to the next page, and then holes cut in that page so you can peek through again, and then some pop-up elements, little pockets, fold outs, things that you pull up, all the kinds of things you get in paper interactive books, but in a stitched form. Really, really want to do that, and it would definitely be garden tea party themed, with some of my fabric printed words and letters added as well. Another idea is stitched scrolls. So I am very lucky to have a couple of stitched scrolls. I thought any excuse to get them out and show you again. These came from the lovely Maggie Morris. Look at these beautiful pieces. Just absolutely love them. This one, Maggie told me she started by using stencils. So she marked the stencils onto the fabric first and then stitched into them. So I have dug out, oh dear, where have I put them? Here they are. I have dug out a few old well-loved stencils which I thought I could use with fabric paint or Inktense or something first. So again, picking up either elements from my mood board. So this is foliage and grasses there. This is kind of remembering the design of the china cup with the leaves and the scroll patterns. I think these all would lend themselves very well. I would take just the flowers out of that one. This is just like handwriting text. So I did have a patch of handwritten text on my mood board, which I liked the look of, and I think it would be nice to have some of that in the background. Again, more little flowers. They would work really well to stitch into. And this one is the poppy, but I don't know if I don't think I'd actually use the poppy for what I'm thinking of, but I did like the scrolly bit. Quite Moroccan looking, like a Moroccan tile, that reminds me of. Again, I would just use, do the whole thing, but just bits of it. I love the scroll shape of that one. So I can use a mixture of those things on fabric first to give me something to stitch into. I'll give you a really quick look at a stitch scroll I made myself. I went in rainbow order with this one. I have done a look through this before, so I won't take ages and ages doing it now, but I had a blast with this. Really, really enjoyed it. Again, I will try to remember to leave the links to everything that I'm showing you here. 2021, that's when I made that. Kind of along the lines of bangles and scrolls, these are a couple of the cuffs that I made with the kits from Tori. So that's Cool Kooky Creatures Tori. So these were wrist cuffs, but I made this one, I extended the length of it a little bit and made it into a little closure for my journal. Nearly there now. Bunting, I did think I could do bunting because I had bunting in my mood board, and I did do a series myself of little kind of mini tutorials called Boho bunting. Again, I would try to remember to link all of these things, but in that I explored a different kind of stitching technique, different ways of creating texture and what have you each week, and I was using recycled fabrics that I got from Bazaar, but you could adapt it to any kind of whatever fabrics you want to be using, really. I wouldn't use the same fabrics this time. But yeah, quite fancy just following along with my own tutorials, really, and perhaps have another go at creating some bunting, even maybe just a short piece just to hang over a door rather than a sort of 3 meters long piece. I've got a wind chime mobile kit with UV resin. Again, if I did that in the colours shown, there's a bit in my mood board where I've got these lights. I'm thinking my wind chime, it's all circular pieces. If I coloured them in these kind of colours, and it's circles again, I've still got a lot of ideas about circles I want to carry on with. To me, that would fit the idea of wind chimes, bunting, any kind of hanging decorations. I love the hanging decorations that I've seen. Oh, I know, what's her name? I've got her up on Instagram. Jenny, she's called Jenny. So her Instagram is so_busy_drawing. And I just love some of her ideas. Look at these. I love her beautiful hanging pieces like this. Oh, music. Unexpected. And she did some back along. Look, she's done a stitched vessel there. That's beautiful. These are the ones I'm thinking of, where she's got these stuffed balls and birds. She adds birds and things to them. Music again. I just think they are so joyful. I really want to do some of those. Oh, look at a stack of journals there. Lovely. I have got a little stash of these kind of things which came in my Bazaar packs back along from the reclaimed Indian textiles. And I love these kind of things, and I would like to find a way to incorporate these into mobiles and stuff. And I just think this project has just got me thinking about it's all the right kind of colours and the right kind of the mood, the way I feel when I look at that mood board. This is it. If that makes any kind of sense at all. This whole desk is now kind of covered with how I feel when I look at that mood board. And the one last thing I want to try is creating my own fabrics and threads. So Christine of Create and Craft with Christine has been showing how to use Inktense. She was using Inktense blocks. I've got blocks and pencils, and she's been using the Inktense to create her own variegated threads which look amazing. So I would like to do that in the colours of my palette to use for whatever projects I do. And I also would like to have a go at making some of my own fabric, so printing them off in the way I described earlier with the words and things, and maybe doing some collages to print onto fabric like Jackie does, because they are amazing. Maybe I'll ask Jackie if she would just, I mean, she's shared pictures before, but it'll be a while back and they'll be all buried. I'll ask Jackie if she'll just share some more pictures again in Discord and in the Facebook group, so you can see what I mean with some of the fabrics that she's printed off. But also, I've been watching Susie Q doing her jelly printing, and she is so, jelly printing is something that I want to do more of. I love it. It's always so satisfying. I love doing it on paper to create collage papers, and I would love to try it on fabric, which I haven't before. Susie does amazing jelly printing on fabric and papers, and she just makes these little doodle books. She does all sorts. I'll link to her as well. My description box is going to be like this. It's going to be bigger than the screen. So yeah, I'd like to carry on exploring that circles theme, because I really enjoy playing with circles, and I wanted to do some lino prints as well, based on taking a circle and cutting it up in different ways to create different but coordinating motifs to create my own fabric with, and then stitch into. I think that's probably quite enough ideas to throw at you for now. I'm just going to go back to my desk and make a little thumbnail. These colours and all of this stuff on here is just like, it's just joy to me. This is I think I'm trying to squeeze too much in, but you get the idea. She showed herself, found herself out, her heart was happy. So as you can see, I have got lots and lots of ideas I want to try. So over the coming months, I will keep popping back and sharing them with you, and I'll post pictures in the Facebook group and Discord community. I'm probably going to be closing the colour inspiration room in the Discord So going forward, if you've got projects you'd like to share, and please do, because it always makes my day to see them, please put them in the art show and tell room or the craft show and tell room, depending on what the project is. So that's my challenge to you. Create something three-dimensional inspired by your colour inspiration journal. Any part of it, the very beginning, go back to the very beginning. The idea is that we're creating a journal that we can go back to, we can flick through any time to find a bit of inspiration. I will be printing off that little list I was just reading and sticking it in that journal somewhere so I don't lose all of those ideas, because I know what I'm like. I'll get caught up with other things and they'll get forgotten. So that's, you can always make a little tuck spot in your journal, just fold the page over, staple it, stick a little list in there, just, it's not meant to be a tidy, beautiful, finished artwork, this journal. It's meant to be a working journal, a way to explore and collect your ideas. I can tell I've been talking too long because I've spitting feathers here. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much to everybody who joined me in this journey and for sharing all your work. Please do keep sharing as well. There's no time limit on this. It's an ongoing, forever kind of project, really. So please do keep sharing. I'm really going now. I'm going to stop talking. I even talk in my sleep. Thanks very much. See you again soon. Bye. Oh dear.